Thank you very much, Joe. And you just saw Roccat taking down the SUPA HOT CREW once again in a game that finished very fast. Let's take it back to the beginning. And guys, maybe Nif first about the picks and bans. Some significant changes coming in there for the SUPA HOT CREW.
Yeah, no more Alistair. Instead, we get a Roccat to see. And it kind of showed why he's really strong, why he's contested. Like, he's not that strong in lane, but then once the teamfight starts, he's just unkillable and makes the whole team unkillable too. And he has a lot of damage for tanks.
Yeah, I also have to highlight, we see Zed pulled out. We did see the Kayle once again in the top lane. Small changes in 4.13. SUPA HOT CREW with a very aggressive comp, Rengar in the jungle, and two sort of assassin bursty champions in top and mid. It feels like it's a comp from a few patches ago, and while it started well, it didn't necessarily work entirely the way SUPA HOT CREW were looking for.
Yeah, because when we saw that SUPA HOT CREW was rambling up those kills in the early game, doing very well, but they didn't seem to get any objectives going. What did you make of that play?
No, I mean, the one thing that surprised me is for the SUPA HOT CREW, they got ahead in kills, but they were down 2 dragons to 1. It was Roccat that got the first tower. Despite finding the kills, it never led to objectives. It just felt like SUPA HOT CREW had this pick comp, and they were like, we can kill that guy. But that was as far as the plan went.
Yeah, I can just agree. They played a pick comp, but they couldn't really transition in global gold, so they fall behind eventually. And Roccat was just looking for teamfights, so they grew up after for every dragon after the first one, which they had to give up. And SUPA HOT CREW couldn't contest it, so they have to give up all the global gold, and then they just fall behind with the comp.
Yeah, we actually have some replays that can show us the story of the game. Let's take a look at one of the replays from earlier in the game when SUPA HOT CREW counter-ganked, let's say.
So I absolutely love this replay because Roccat are looking to jump on Mima and catch him out. But Mr. Riles has actually stealthed himself up. Despite us seeing him on the screen, he's in ambush. Roccat on 100% sure that he's there. So let's roll this clip out and look how quickly SUPA HOT CREW respond. Mima is instantly going to throw the intervention down on himself, and just as Jankos and Zazas are like, oh no, we've bitten off more than they can chew, they're locked in by their own cataclysm. And SUPA HOT CREW, just pause the clip right now. SUPA HOT CREW, despite being 5 kills to 1, they were down a tower, they were actually behind on gold at that stage. And that was the point that we were discussing and talking about upstairs. The SUPA HOT CREW was super aggressive and in your face, but it never equated to actual control.
Yeah, so Nif, if you would be Roccat in that scenario and you're down in kills, would you have the impulse to immediately go for objectives? Because normally the other team would have warded everywhere and you wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, I think I would do it. We have to see at the farm as well. I think Kog'Maw was really far ahead, top lane was equal, mid was kind of equal. But you know that your comp is way stronger than SUPA HOT CREW, so you would just group for it because that's your winning condition. So that's what you have to do. And SUPA HOT CREW has to pick you off, which they could do, but they couldn't really get something out of it.
I also want to comment on the Cog. 2 games in a row, 2 Kog'Maw match for Celaver, and he's performing very well on that champion.
Yeah, absolutely. Trevor, how much of that comes down to maybe vision control from the SUPA HOT CREW? If you have that much of a kill lead, you know where you can go.
The thing is, the vision is definitely a testament, but I feel even more so than that, it's the decision-making for the SUPA HOT CREW. They're prioritizing kills in this game much more than anything else. They didn't really push waves. They didn't really push for objectives. They didn't try sneak a dragon. They couldn't stand toe-to-toe with Roccat. In the previous game, they were being dictated to by Roccat, and they weren't able to make a play that would give them control of the game. So I just feel like as a team, they're not making the best decisions to maintain control of the match.
Yeah, and when I was talking to Veggie last week, he was saying, yeah, we are working on that macro level strategy, especially our mid game, our late game, closing things out. And I have to say here, incredible testament to what Roccat has been training on, apparently, because it takes something to take a couple of kills and immediately close things out.
Yeah, they look really solid right now. They know how to use the TP. They know how to rotate on the map, that they can use make of the TV like the last teamfight. We could see it as well, that he teleported in from the bot lane, and then they turned the fight around. So they played really well for their winning condition. What I also want to say is that actually, I think they outpicked SUPA HOT CREW really hard. They know exactly what's really strong, and they went for it. And SUPA HOT CREW had no answer. I think Selfie went for stat because he felt like he had to carry. But it doesn't work like this in this patch anymore. It's more like a team coordination instead of a solo carry, like in Season 3.
Yeah, what composition had you rather seen coming out of SUPA HOT CREW, Trevor?
It's very difficult to say, but I wouldn't have been surprised to have seen maybe a Shyvana for Mima again. It is his most played champion by a long while. Deficio was highlighting in Game 1, I believe 16 games played, in contrast to anything else. We've seen some focus bans. Dr. Mundo's been taken off the table twice against the SUPA HOT CREW, so Mima's not getting his comfort tanky pick. But I completely agree with what Nif was saying. If SUPA HOT CREW go back to a team fight-oriented build, something where they have a front line, they have a back line, and they can move as a unit and work as a unit, that could work in their favor.
Yeah, and then a final question, of course, we were talking about it before the SUPA HOT CREW. They were talking about it in their video, when we get emotional. And it's one thing to lose that first game, but is it maybe a much harder thing to overcome when you've been ahead in kills in that second game, when you were deciding your own fate?
I think the kills doesn't really matter for them. I think it's really hard for a player to overcome it by yourself. It's really good to have someone outside that can talk to you and tell you that you should just forget it and keep going, because that's what you really should focus on. And like, I'm not sure if they can do it. They're 2 down, so they have to give everything now. Maybe they will do something risky. They're also on the blue side, so they might get Maokai, which I actually don't think so. But we will see. Maybe they pick the Analyst.
All right, Trevor, any final thoughts for maybe Roccat to close it out? Because we always concentrate on a team that has to come back, but Roccat just keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah, Roccat can carry on playing the way they're playing. They've run comfortable comps for Celiva. They got Kog'Maw first rotation in game 1, Kog'Maw second rotation in game 2. If they get Kog'Maw again, 3-0 in Rockat's favor.
All right, well, we'll see. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, one of these teams takes a step closer to facing Fnatic in the semifinals.